So I wanted to do a 1-year follow-up on my Lenovo C940 laptop, 2-in-1. I purchased it in December of 2019, took delivery about halfway through the month, really kind of kicked off and started using it in January of 2020, and from then ever since. I use it fairly regularly, about almost every day for about 1.5 hours-ish. Mostly right now to consume media. I thought I'd be doing a little more creation on it than I actually have, but work gets in the way of a lot of things, unfortunately. So 1 year in, what do I think of this device? Up front, I'm still very satisfied. This is still the perfect laptop. It fits everything that I wanted it to do and does exactly what I need. So I'm extremely happy with it. Compared to my Surface Pro, I think it's holding on a little better than it did for its first year. I started seeing some of the loss in performance beginning during the first year on the Surface Pro, as well as I tried to take it on a couple business tips of the Surface Pro, and having a couple spreadsheets open, a couple websites, it really started to show that the old CPU and that was not going to last as long. This one is still running a 10th gen CPU. It's got much more RAM, 16 gigs, hard drive's a lot bigger. Overall, it's just a much better built laptop, and so far it really hasn't lost any performance at all over the year. Battery life, I'm still pushing. I still have it in economy mode, so I've restricted the top 40%, so I have 60% of the battery. I still run the battery limitation, or the system restricted, so the battery is set to conserve as much as possible, so it limits CPU utilization unless there's something critical going on or I've asked it to do a bunch of stuff. With that said, I still get about 3.5 hours of total usage time at that level. So if I add in the other 40%, I'm still looking at about 5.5, 6.5 hours of light moderate usage. The stylus, I haven't had a chance to really dig in and use it all that much. I have used it a couple of times, and I stand by my previous statements that if you are someone with larger hands, it's not the most comfortable device, simply because it's so thin and short. If you have small hands, you probably won't have much of an issue with this, but if you do have larger hands, it works perfectly fine. It's great for quick doodles, business notes, anything like that, highlighting passages, all that stuff works just fine. But if you're going to do some serious drawing, or you're going to do much more serious note-taking, or that's really the core of what you're needing it for, I would suggest getting something a little better for your hand that's going to be a lot more comfortable. Not necessarily better features, but something that's going to be more comfortable for long-term usage. With its small size, I would see it getting kind of crampy in the hand to try and pinch and hold it and be accurate with. The keyboard, I had a couple complaints on the spacing of the keys originally. But after a year of using it, I really have adapted easily, and I have no real concerns with the keyboard. I love the travel, I love the sound, I love the illumination on it, love the keyboard. Trackpad, very large, same thing, love the trackpad. I think they did a great job on it. Display, I have the FHD display, perfectly fine for my needs. I think it looks fantastic. I've seen a couple commenters complain that they don't like the ultra glossy screen. You can see it kind of reflecting off my monitors there. It's really glossy. Most of my utilization on this device is in doors or in darker rooms, so I don't have a lot of glare to deal with. I could see that being annoying if you're outside a lot or in areas that are more brightly illuminated, because it's going to be reflecting a lot more light. It really depends on your usage. I could see matte. I am kind of in between. I like the gloss because, again, I typically use it in the dark where it works just fine for me, but displays just fine. Webcam. Really impressed by the webcam. I have had to use it a few times to meet with doctors and some meetings, and the webcam in this is, well, no means blowing my socks off. It is one of the best laptop cameras that I have used because it's the most modern. It beats my work laptop, my previous laptop, and my cell phones, both my cell phones. I have a OnePlus 5T and a Galaxy S8 currently, and my wife has a Pixel 4a, I think, and it blows all of those out of the water. So it's a really good camera. I'm very pleased with that. The microphones in it are also really good for onboard microphones. Again, they're not going to blow your socks off, but they're really good quality for what they are. So I've been very pleased with that. The speakers on this, with the soundbar across the front and then the two main drivers down here on the bottom. Still phenomenal. I love the sound that this thing can put out. Typically, because I'm doing what I do at night, watching videos or whatever, I keep volume pretty low on this, between 10 to 20%. Sounds fantastic. No problems. Absolutely love the audio side of this thing. I've used the Earphone Jack a few times. No problem. Standard Earphone Jack. Heat and issues on that front, again, because I'm typically using it on my lap, it's able to vent between my legs. If I set it on the desktop, it does tend to get a little warm because the intake is right here across the bottom. Let's see if I can get the light on it. There it is. So that is the intake. And again, my main concern are these rubber feet here. They run the whole length of it and they starve it for air. So the only way it can get air is through the sides. I still think these need to be taller, at least in the back. And they have this perfect space right here by the screws where they could set a large foot that would not impact this at all. Even if they put a small one here in the middle, it would still be fine because there would be other channels for air to get into those intakes to help keep it cool. And that's really the only problem with the cooling system that I have. Again, I'll continue to say it. You're packing a lot of hardware in a very small space. It's going to get hot, period. There's no way around that. Unless they improve CPU technology to where they run on a lot less power, it's going to get hot. So I'm very pleased that I got the i5 in this. I think the i7 is a great one. Don't get me wrong. The QHD, also a great display, but they're going to generate too much heat and it's going to ramp up the fans too much and it's going to suck the battery life. Again, that's why I went with the choice I did in hardware on this. So 1 year in, no complaints. Absolutely love it. I've had a couple of Windows updates and I think one Lenovo update that again kind of screwed with the battery life a little bit and the fans. Every couple of updates something seems to change on that where the fans get, or the heat gets higher, battery consumption gets worse, and then it kind of flip-flops where suddenly the heat's not as bad and the battery consumption's better. That's Windows and Lenovo for you. Not much we can do about that. So overall, I don't really have any problems with it. 1 year in, I'm totally sold on it. I have no plans to replace it. I use the sucker every day. Absolutely love the device. So for me, it was the perfect purchase. And I've remained active in the comments on the videos over this year. And I've recommended some folks look at Acer, Asus, and even some folks for the HPs, simply because they fit their needs better. And that's really it. I'm not locked in on any brand. This is the first Lenovo laptop I've ever owned. My previous one was the Microsoft Surface. Before that, I had an HP. They're all built by Fujitsu. So again, I'm totally open to any brand. It's whatever has the best bang for the buck on the market at the time. And the Lenovo totally knocked it out of the park. I love the build quality. It's built like a tank. Great metal finish on it. I'll see if I can get it up there. The edges here, you can see it right there from picking it up off of floors, tables, wherever it is. Even a little bit here on the soundbar. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hard to capture on the soundbar. There's a few scrapes and scuffs on there simply because you got to pick it up. And because it sits so low with this in the front, no matter what happens when you try to pick it up and rotate it, it immediately scrapes on the sides. So minor issues. It scraped some of that paint off and rubbed a bit of the metal, but the back of my Surface is pretty chewed up as well from years and years of use, and half of that's plastic. So again, I think it's a great device. If you purchased one, I don't see any reason why you would dislike it unless it wasn't the right device for your needs. So again, 1 year in, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below and I'll see if I can answer them. Anything specific you want me to test or showcase after a year, I'll be happy to do what I can. But overall, I think it's a great device. I'm perfectly pleased with it. We'll see you next time.